Alrighty, Deck Sage is back, and it is better than ever. So unfortunately, I was out of town, if you don't know, for a while, and then I came back, and I've been busy with a lot of stuff, and it's been just kind of difficult to sit down and record these because they tend to take a while, and I want to make sure I'm giving good advice on all of the ones that I am. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First of all, we have Kingsglaives by Noide. I'm going to try to get through 6 here. So been to a Materia Cup. Want to exploit the 3 CP Nyx to play Nyx. Glaives their matches where they slow the opponent, but they can't secure the win. They end up recovering. So let's take a look here. We're going to go into Deck Editor. Alright, so there's a lot of ways to play Glaives. I'm not really a Kingsglaive expert, unfortunately. There's some really interesting things in here, actually. Arden obviously is an interesting thing to try to play with Nyx. The downside is that we're going to be on a lot of similarly named characters, so I don't know how much value Arden's actually going to give us. Like, we can sacrifice off Crow, which is really good. Like, we get value off of that, but like we don't have anything that plays off of the Arden necessarily. And we're in kind of a weird spot where it's like we have Arden and Shinryu, but like we're not really invested in either of them. So if you're saying, hey, Ghoul, how would you look at this now? Obviously, I think this is also sent to me back in Opus 20, so 21 might be different as well. We're in Mono Lightning, and in that situation, I am going to always try to run the Weaver package. Um, I am going to cut the Cosmos. I just am not really a huge fan of it. Like I get the idea is like we can cast a Regis or our Ignis or our Shinryu. I am just not thinking that I think that that's enough to really worry about. What exactly does Nyx play from deck again? It's been a little while. 5 or less, category 15. Okay. Um, so there's a couple of conundrums here that I think are going to be kind of interesting to try to solve. I'm not huge on the Arden. I get the idea, but I think just playing Noctis or something like Ignis from the deck is probably good enough. Like one copy of Ignis as like just a target for the Nyx is probably fine. I would cut the Shinryus. So we're on the Weavers. Let's go through here. We don't want two Kuja, I don't think. Pelna at 3 is fantastic. I'm going to go up the Regises because I think Regis free play Pelna is actually really nuts. Sonidus and Luce at 2 each I really like. I'm going to put Crow at 2. I love the card, but she's really only good if you have Regis on field already. I like one Ricard. Reeve is fantastic here. Chadley is probably fine. Um, I think honestly there's a couple of easy things we can do here. So we can go Estinian up a copy. I'm going to cut this and the Ardens. That gets us up to 5 slots. So we put the Estinian up a copy. This is a pretty good way to force the game to end. Especially factored in with like the Noctis and stuff. This gives us kind of that ramping package. I think 16 backups is way too many actually. Let's cut the. I like one copy of Chadley. I'm going to cut the one Kuja. I know it is an EX burst, but I don't value those super highly in this situation. We can cut the Ramu there. I like this Ramu. That's going to help us close games out. I think a couple copies of Odin are going to be actually pretty important in the current meta. We have our Estinian here, and then the other cards we can run to really ramp the game. And actually, because of the way Kingsglaives work, I think Irvine actually is better than he is in most decks because of the amount of recursion the cards like Axis or Crow give us access to. We might actually be able to go to the third Crow here and cut like one copy of Weaver or something, right? That puts us at 48. We have the one copy of Ignis. Aranea doesn't have a ton of like where we could play Tread, but like that's pretty low value. What are some Lightning 2 drops that we would really enjoy playing? Now that I'm thinking about it. Null actually does not sound that bad to play off of that. Doesn't really fit very well. I like Cindy actually. Cindy is really nice. We can do some self damage, which this deck doesn't mind. She can be pulled out of deck with Nyx, which is like not nothing. Um, she procs Noctis, which is really good. So yeah, I think something like this would be like a decent starting point. For a Kingsglaive deck, we're on 21 Kingsglaive. You could consider running an extra copy of the other Nyx as like another card that can do stuff, but I think this is probably fine just to run the 15 Legend. Thunderplanes, more mono lightning. So Thunderplanes, this was sent to me. The text here is been to locals, want to get better. Big mono lightning fan since I played. I know mono lightning isn't as strong as it once was, but still one of my favorite decks. Good spot removal with Celire, Seymour, Lady Lilith, and Summons. I like Summons shenanigans with Mana Black and Seymour. Personal tech. Oh, there we go. I want to stick with is the Emperor package. I find the Dark version a strong wall to get over this deck with a bit of draw power. And of course, it allows a 4 CP Arc cast. Lightning Emperor is the newest edition. Adds potential for casting Dark Emperor again. Maybe that's not needed. Appreciate content and appreciate feedback. Thank you so much. Okay. I don't have any issues with the Emperor as a card. I think it's actually one of the most criminally slept on cards in we have access to. So let's go take a look here. First thing I'm going to look at is your backup package. Lulu, I think, is a card you need to be considering why we're on her. If she's not in here for a specific reason, I would probably end up cutting her personally. We're on the Lilith, Melusine, so the ninjas make some sense there. Aphmau, she's a good one of. I actually really like lightning decks that are built with like the 1-1-1-1-1 package like this. I would cut one Kuja. I would, if we're gonna keep the 1-1-1, I like Gestal. I think Emperor Gestal is a very good backup. 14 backups, I think, is probably pretty solid. We have the one copy of Chadley. Trying to think if there's any other like really nuts backups. Like the one copy of Lulu wouldn't be horrible, but I feel like we're probably okay here. For our summons, 2 Ixion, 3 Ramu. Okay, so one thing that I'm not a big fan of is Bahamut Zero. I think there's just too much counterplay, and if Bahamut Zero doesn't do what it's supposed to and you don't win that turn, you probably just lose. So I'm not really a Bahamut Zero fan. Exodus is like an interesting card. It's like non-targeting removal, but like very specific when it's actually good. I would just cut both of those and run 2 copies of New Odin and 1 copy of 3CP Ramu. This is like another copy of this Ramu, except it's just really good. Oh, we already got 3. Oh. 1 copy of that and 2 copies of this Ramu. This Ramu, until you loop this with Man in Black, you don't realize just how good this actually is. I'm okay with the Melusines here. I think that makes a lot of sense. Seymour is really good. Seymour actually gets better with this Ramu. You can actually haste in for the thing. I don't see a lot of discard outlets for the Arc. We're going to probably have to change that. If we're on Man in Black, I really think it's a card that's best at 3. So let's go ahead and bump that up by 1. I don't hate the one copy of Ramza. We're on the 5 copies of Emperor there. Lilith, Melusine. I don't love the Roche, to be honest. And then I know you mentioned Celire, I think, in the actual text. Let me reread that real quick. Uh, Good spot removal with Celire. Yeah, I think the thing with Celire is that like she's kind of expensive for most of her modes. So I would personally like go down on the Celires for Cisne, just to get those arcs out of your hand when they're not good. The one copy of Aranea is fine. 3 Lilith. Oh, we already got. Oh no, 2 Alba. The Albas probably should be Irvines in the current meta. And I think this looks pretty decent, honestly. I think the Emperor is going to give us some pretty good deck thinning as well, so we're going to be drawing our good cards a lot more often. I might go for the 3rd copy of the Lightning Emperor, to be honest. Just to, like, really reinforce that you can cast this Emperor twice. But I don't know how necessary that is. I don't see any cards I want to cut for that. I think even the one copy of Aranea is fine in this list. Yeah, that's about all the changes I would make, I think. I like the idea, though. I think this is pretty solid. Manly Cass. This is uh, Wind Lightning. Formerly a mirror deck, trying it as a summon instead. Having trouble fitting in the white mages and fat chocobos, which is that it didn't have to go down in Nash and Alexander 8's. Instant breakstone removal is mandatory against multiple decks, though. Okay, let's take a look here. So we're on. Okay. So the thing I'm seeing here, I think we're kind of in between whether we want to be like a kind of mid-rangey control deck with like the clouds, or like a cast deck with stuff like the Ash and stuff. We're missing a lot of the normal cast payloads that I would look for, especially because we're running cards like Pavlov that like would seem to be a stormy type of card. So I'm not. I think there's like a couple directions we can take this, and you don't have to go super cast heavy to make Cloud a good card. I think is one thing that like people don't really realize. I think 3 copies of Ash is way too many, especially considering she's a little slow. Yuri, because we're on a lot of Crystal Chronicle stuff, I think I'm more than okay with. Mana Black is fantastic. I am big on Shinryu at 3 or Shinryu at 0. I don't really think you should ever play this card at just 2 copies. The one copy of Evray is good, but like I think that we probably want the one copy of Atomos as well, if we're gonna go there. Let's take a look at our backups. We have Norstalin, Yuk, Pavlov. We have the one copy of Seymour and no Buddy to go fetch it, which is a little strange. Like we have a lot of kind of just a lot of lightning backups. I know you have the white mages in here. I would honestly almost rather just play a copy of the goddess. I know that like you're saying instant breaks and removal is a must, but it's really not. Especially targeted. And white mage is like kind of like she's good. She's actually a card that's aged relatively well, but I feel like we could just kind of do better. I'd be afraid of Kuja in this as well because we might have to hit our own 2 drops. We're also not on Luso at all, which is why I'm like not sure to treat this as a cast deck and more like a Wind Lightning summons list. Nash, I don't think is a card we ever want to run at multiples. I think that's probably a 1 of at most. Chadley gets us to our Odins. Yeah, so I would probably do that. If we want to run the White Mage, I think we can run it at 1, but I'm not really comfortable running that at 2. I like 2 Buddy, 1 Seymour. Buddy can search himself if you already draw the Seymour. That gets us back up to 15. And I'll be honest, I think we don't necessarily need the Johnny here. Um, I might also cut a Chadley for like a Stiltskin. And I think that like I feel a lot better about running Yuri if we have just like an extra couple Crystal Chronicles backups in here. For the summons, I mean Alexander's a nice card, but it's kind of a little bit against some of the other stuff we're looking at. And I think that Fat Chocobo is really solid, but I would actually run the Goddess over it, especially if you're worried about Break Zone. I find the Goddess actually is a lot better than people give it credit for. And in a deck like this, you can actually stall with Man in Black really well. We have this Alexander. That's really nice. I would cut this Alexander for, I think, 2 copies of 3C, the new Odin. I recognize this like hits a different demographic, but I think it's still really kind of nice in here. Um, yeah, I think there's like a lot of other little things. It's hard to know whether to take this in like a full cast direction where we're running stuff like Luso and like we didn't have the Rosa in here. Like it's like a lot of changes that I don't know if it's fundamentally changing the deck in a way that you're not looking to play because they're not in there. Like I feel like if you're actually on a cast deck, you're going to be doing that. Um, like that's the only thing I'm a little bit like confused on is what we're really looking for with those. Um, Hopefully this is a little bit of a more tuned version of what you had. We have kind of a lot. We have a lot of our like really strong defensive cards. We can kind of play it really slow with our Man in Blacks, and then try to kind of outvalue your opponent with like the Zidane, the Lulu, the Yuri over time. I actually really like the combination of Yuri and Man in Black as well, because Man in Black can cover Yuri, so Yuri can safely attack every turn, especially paired with 3 copies of the Opus 20 Ramu. I think that's actually like a really like neat combination. There's definitely like a way you could take this in more of a cast direction or in more of a control direction. Like we could run stuff like Yuffie in here to like really make the untargetability and the control aspects kind of ramp out, or we can go more into the cast direction. But this is like it's an okay go between. But I think you're going to be better off going heavier one way or the other. Cutting stuff like maybe the Yuri, or no, the Yuri's fine. Cutting like the Ash, and I think like maybe like the Every and the Atomos to play like a Yuffie, or thinning this out quite a bit to go for like a very heavy Storm Engine, if that makes sense. Um, Actually, I'd go down on these by a little bit as well. Um, I know that like we're okay taking damage, but like 5 CP is really expensive in a deck that like does seem like it wants to cast a couple cards a turn. Something like the 2 CP Odin, or even like 1 copy of the 1 CP Ramu, I think could actually go a long way here as well. Especially because Seymour can search it out potentially. All right. Moving right along, we have 28 Ice Water Terra. Okay, let's take a look. Main card is Terra. Goal is to dull freeze, most efficient way. Realm duplicates Terra triggers and cycle faster through the deck. Unicorn and Cucullin. Gentiana was added later. Helped a lot making a board of Dull Freeze into virtually an empty one to circumvent the lack of removal on the ice side. No concerns, 13. Fire Lightning, Water Lightning, Scions, different variants of 6. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and take a look. So we have okay, cool. Realm, we have one copy of Citra, 2 Gentiana, the full 3 Strago, 3 Lock, 1 Celestia, 3 Celes, the Terra, the Mog, 2 Fiends, and a new Morrow. We have Cucullin, we got a fair number of summons here. And then for the backups, we have the 1 copy of Andoria, the Mute, the Setzer, a full 3 Sid, Sarah, and a Thornton. So the first thing that I'm thinking about when I'm seeing this is I think we're a little in between 2 different packages. I actually really like the idea. I think it's really clever of using this lock as a finisher payload for Terra. I think it's a really cool idea. I think Realm could pair really well with Terra. I think that running a larger 6 package with like the Setzer and the Sid so that we can maybe cast Mog for free is really cool. I don't think that 12 summons is going to be quite enough for what we're looking to do here. So let's kind of go card by card. I'm going to try to clean this up just a little bit. Citra's a great EX burst, but I think it's holding us back because it's also meaning we're having to play Mute instead of Princess Sarah. I feel like we should probably have at least 1 Princess Sarah in here. Like 1 Princess Sarah, 1 Mute, I think is a lot better than 2 Sarah, 2 Mute. Like that feels a little bit off to me, like as far as our ratios go. So I'm gonna cut the Citra. I'm gonna put the Gentiana to 1. I get the idea of her. She's just a little slow, and I really kind of like the idea of playing this as like an in-between between like an aggro and a control deck, where we can use like the Terra, the Lock, and the Celes to like just kind of win the game. I don't actually love this Celes in here. I think this is one of the very rare decks that I would play 2 CP Celes in over at 3 copies. I really think that because I think that what you want to do is you want to use the Terra to lock your opponent's field, and then you want to use Celes and Lock as a consistent way to just kind of close out the game. I'm okay with the Fiend as a matchup specific thing, but I don't think we need 2. So then I'm going to run 1 copy of Yeti Spaghetti Umaro. It's going to fix your removal issue quite a bit as well, because you're allowed to pitch 2 cards into pulling it back from the break zone, which I think is really important. If we go to our backups, this is another area that has... So we have Zolera, Cucullin. I'm going to put the Cucullin to 3. Shiva's already at 3, which is great. The thing it's a little strange about Medius is that we're already dull freezing stuff with Terra quite a bit. So I'm not sure how useful that's going to end up being. I really love Unicorn in this list. I think it's fantastic. Let's go down the Mute, add the Princess Sarah. Two Andoria is A-okay. 3 sets or 3 Sid as an engine requirement. I'm going to go up on the Sarah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 backups. Thornton's a great EX, but I just don't know how much we're going to want to actually cast him in this deck. I'm trying to think if there's like a thing that really pops out at me. I might go for like a pair of Lena here. I think the lower cost on the backups is going to help a lot with that. I might also go down a copy of, I think, the Setzer. the Gestalian Empire Sid is a little bit too important. Going over back to the forwards, I really want to get us to about 18 summons, if I had to say. I really want our Terras to pop. So we have our Shivas. We honestly can go pretty heavy on water for our summons with where we're at. So let me go take a look real quick at where we're at with water summons. And I actually think we want water summons that we're okay casting, even on an empty board. Because Terra works a lot better with low-cost summons, which is something we've realized with the Shivas and other cards. Oh, well, first things first, we can add one copy of the new Shiva as well. I think this is just absolutely fantastic in this type of list. I'm going to cut the Zaleras. I get that it's removal, but like so is the Unicorn. And then we can go into our water summons. Alright, so we're on the 3 coup, 3 Unicorn. I kind of like just running 2 copies of Poo Poo here, I'm going to be honest. I'm just trying to deep draw a bit. And then one more summon. We probably want one more removal spell, since we don't have a ton of it. If I had to pick... I would probably add a copy of 3CP Leviathan, I think. Seems pretty decent to both double cast off of the realm and go further. But I think this actually like strikes a decent balance. Like we have enough summons where the Terra is going to actually like hit really hard. And then before the lack of removal becomes a problem, hopefully the Lock Celes just kind of wins the game for us. There's maybe an argument to go down on like the Stragos and the Realms and really lean more into the summon package. Running cards like Ico to get back summons from the break zone so you can keep firing them. But I think this is a nice in-between for you where you do have the ability to do a lot of... Like the Terra is going to do a lot of damage and the game's going to end before your opponent really has a chance to respond. Actually, now that I think about it, it's probably not this Leviathan. It's probably... Ice Summon... It's probably a copy of Glacia. This is removal for you, and it's also a discard. This is a really good thing to flicker with the Realm, which is really important, I think. So, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Could maybe go down on the Celestia if you really wanted to have room for like another copy of a card. Obviously, the protection is really nice, but she's a very reactive card. And I think this is going to be kind of a very proactive deck. But I feel like it's a deck that, like you want to get like Princess Sarah down, or like Sarah, Lena, Gestalian Empire, Sid, and then go to town with like a bunch of stuff like back to back to back. Yeah. All right, Ice Wind Warp. This is from Copycat. I've been to Materia Cup, NA, for locals, want to take it somewhat seriously. Alright, let's take a look right here. Okay, so we're on a lot of different warp payloads for sure. A lot going on here. First thing that I would look at is actually our backups. I actually like the Moogle engine with the Chocomogs. And I think Viera is a very, very good card. But we could put these at 2. We should probably be on Google Moogle if we're going to be on the Chocomog engine. I find that's like a lot of the reason to be on that. I'm going to go down to one Sid. I know that like the idea is that, like Sid has warp in his warp support, but I don't want to lean into it as heavily. I feel like if I had to pick. Also going to go down on the Renoa to one. I just want to make room for like a true engine, even a small one. In this situation, you can go either Nordstalin into Uke or Buddy into Unaleska are both like viable. I'm gonna go Buddy Unaleska. Just cause this could very easily be Nordstalin Uke though. That gets back to 15 backups, but all of them are pretty solid at this point. I get the idea with Ultimecia. I think the idea that you're going for is you warp your cards, so Ultimecia doesn't actually like matter. But I think the problem is that she's just a little too easy to play around. Your opponents can kind of just ramp into her or like ignore her. And a 4CP 9K that doesn't actually impact the board state outside of that might just not be enough to be worth playing here. We've got a lot of other things going on. We're on Beldat. We have 3 colors. We don't have a rainbow enabler, so I think we have to run 1 copy of Cosmos if we're on the Beldat. And I'd still probably drop the Beldat down to 2. I'm going to put the Aerith down to 1. I get the idea with the Kyros. We're going to leave him at 3 for now because of that. Because Melvin floats, I'm going to drop him to just 2. 3 Veins, fantastic. I'm going to go to 2 Sophie, 2 Emperor. We have Noct as a removal engine. Well, he only does it once. I'm going to put him down to 2 as well. 1 copy of the Goddess, 3 Theodore, I think is totally necessary here. And I'm not a huge fan of the Valifors here. Like, and the idea is you could put them all back in hand and warp them again, but we do want to actually close the game out, and Valifor is a very weird board wipe in how it works. So I'm going to go ahead and add in at least 2 copies of Charlotta. I think that we really, if we're going to be on the Beldats, we need to have consistent access to our Cosmos, and we are on like 3 colors with the Noct and stuff. And like Aerith needs exactly Earth to warp herself. If we did that, I'm going to cut 1 backup somewhere. Let's cut like 1 copy of Viera. I think that's probably fair. A lot of our stuff does cost 2. Maybe these can go back up if we add in 2 copies of Azura to kind of recur them. We do have like the Emperor to get them back as well, which is cool. I think we're going to be a little low on ice specifically. We have the Renoa. I'm going to cut the Renoa backup. I really like the Renoa forward in this list. I really like Renoa forward Flickering Vein. You get to kind of get cards in a lot sooner than they would otherwise. And a lot of these cards have really good entry effects. You can get back a card with Aerith. You can redo the Beldat thing. You get all of Sophie's text again, potentially. Emperor functions off of it. Charlotta functions, Noct. Like, all of these cards do not mind coming in off of Renoa at all. So like she's almost worth playing at 3, which means we need to find a couple more ice backups that we were... actually, we probably need more ice backups in general. I think we just go an extra copy of Buddy. Let's go instead for the Nordstalin Uke combo. Then we can run 2 Ukes. I'm going to go down on the Vieras as well here. Just be a little bit faster with our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 backups is probably enough names, especially when 2 of them are standard units. And we have the Chocomog engine. The Azuras also help with the Moogle engine here. I think we can go for... I really like a copy of Biblos to pair with our Theodores. And then we need a couple of other like decent ice payloads. Probably forwards, to be quite honest. Just taking a quick look at see if anything kind of pops out at me as like, oh yeah, we should be on that. Uh, Actually, no, think about it. We should probably be on some number of Sid Hayes. Even in a deck like this, he's going to get quite a bit of value just by existing. I think this is probably pretty solid. We're not really a Storm deck for Sid Hayes, but like, I think reducing the cost of some of the stuff is going to actually make it a lot easier to play. If we have a warped card warped in, we can cast our Noct without having to have our Moogle on field or our Cosmos, which is really nice. We do have the ability to high roll into like a Theodore, Renoa plus Vayne combo. I think this looks pretty decent. And then last one for this, we have 21 Firewind DFF. Okay, let's take a look real quick at what we have in our notes. We have been to locals, want to get better, love the channel. Thank you, I appreciate it. Hans. So let's look at what we got here. We have Norstalen Meath as a backup engine. Kuchaspel as well, so we're on Crystal Chronicles engine. One copy of Princess Goblin and one copy of Princess Goblin. I don't love that. I feel like we're name locking ourselves quite a bit here without really having a great reason to. If it's me, I think I just go with this one because we have the Warrior of Light here, and we can run a copy of Princess Sarah even. To we have the Princess Sarah, so we should just we don't need her ultimately. 2 copies of Dragoon, 3 copies of Samurai. Lebro, we have all of our forwards are fire, but all of our backups are wind. So I'm not really a fan of the Lebro here, and I think we're honestly a little bit high on the fire, but that's more in the forward lineup. Like we have a lot of wind backups. Samurai is probably fine. I think these are relatively interchangeable. So then we need to go to our forwards, and we're kind of running into the DFF problem, which is that our wind DFF cards are not amazing. We have the Cyan. Oh. So this is unfortunate, but I think if we really want to be on a Crystal engine, I really like playing this guy even as just a way to generate 4 crystals. Like pay 7, get 4 crystals is like absolutely ludicrous when you factor in what it means for some other decks. Cards like Onion Knight. I don't love Cloud, but I feel a lot better when he costs 2 CP because he played a Cyan earlier in the game. Similarly, I think 3 Barts is probably more than I would want to play. We don't have any DFF backups in the deck, do we? We have the K-Tuna. We need more wind stuff in the deck in general. Like we need probably some wind forward payloads to go with our Warrior of Light, our Zidane. I know you're trying to stick with DFF as the actual like kind of theme. So let's go ahead real quick, because I'm not sure this off the top of my head. Let's see what all the wind DFF cards are that aren't Zidane. Okay. Warrior of Light procs only once per turn. Uh, Lulu. 3 Lulu. Oh my god, 3 Lulu. Holy cow. Can immediately say that one. Similarly, I don't like the 3 Ishtola here because we can't actually cast her. We can only pull her out of the deck with our Onion Knight. And I feel like a lot of times we don't necessarily want to pull her out. I think she's okay at 1 if we really want to play her. But I would probably be looking at other cards for that type of a slot. If we're sticking with DFF, still, I think 1 copy of Cater is actually fine here. Actually, Chelinka Yuri would be pretty solid here as well. You can go this copy of Chelinka and the old Yuri. You have a lot of Crystal Chronicles cards in your backup engine. Norstalen, Meath, or Kuchaspil just immediately sets up the ability for that card to be untargetable and activate 2 forwards every single turn. But absolutely should be on 3 Lulu. I'm going to actually just outright cut the Ishtola. I really don't like having cards that I can't cast in my decks unless there's a very good reason for it. And, like, I don't think I'm going to generate 2 crystals and then pay 4 CP to get out a haste forward that deals me a point of damage is necessarily worth that. I would just run like 1 copy of Cecil, to be honest, at that point. I think this card is like Cecil play Bart's is just pretty good value. Cecil Zidane is actually going to be hard for some decks to deal with. And I think that plays into your DFF package quite a bit. For your summons, I think these are mostly fine. I probably would swap the Ifrits for Brynhilders, just so we can take better advantage of our Lulu package. I would cut to 1 Phoenix. And I'd probably run a copy of Jin, I think. Actually, really like Jin as a card. I think it helps a lot with a card like Cyan as well. And yeah, I think this is probably where I would be with a list like this. This kind of gives us like kind of the best of both worlds. We have our Ramats, we have our Brynhilders, we have a reason to be on the wind in the DFF package between the Lulu, the Warrior of Light, our Zidanes, the 1 copy of Cater, but we're not hard bound to that. I think the Cloud is maybe one to cut. I'm just not a fan of the way this card works, but I feel a lot better when it's not eating crystals that should be going into your Onion Knight. And Onion Knight pulling out Lulu or Zidane is more than good enough, I think, for most matchups. Um, yeah. And I think that is going to do it for this episode of Deck Sage. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.